fight the power. Power for now, get down. Fight the power. Everybody say fight the power. Power to the people, say damn. Fight the power. Everybody say fight. Hey, hi there. Welcome to the third video of GMO channel. The topic today is, does being anti-GMO means you are anti-science? Let's face it, science and technology are wonderful things. Without that, we wouldn't have our cars and planes and internet and cell phones, and I wouldn't even be able to record my GMO channel, and you wouldn't be able to listen to this and watch this video from any corner of the world. So, does that mean the logical conclusion is that the anti-GMO folks are nothing but shills and Luddites? People who are not smart, people who don't understand technology, and they just have this irrational fear. So, if that's the case, why are so many people against GMOs? Just a while back, over 800 scientists around the world said that GMO crops are nothing but biological warfare on our food. And that's a pretty strong statement to make. 9 European countries have banned GMO cultivation. More than 60 different countries have labeling laws where the food has to say whether it has GMO or not. Just recently, Italy banned Monsanto corn. The French president, a few weeks ago, started fighting with the French Supreme Court so that the ban on Monsanto's corn can be maintained. Japan canceled a huge order of wheat from the US when it learned that there might be some contamination from the GMO wheat made by Monsanto. Germany has complete ban on GMO cultivation throughout the country. So what is happening? I also would like to set the record straight by saying that nobody loves science and technology more than I do. I work as a high-tech consultant. I have a master's degree in engineering, and I have bachelor's degrees in physics and engineering. I love technology. So, in this video, we will talk about 10 reasons why being anti-GMO means that you are actually pro-science. Reason number 1. We have studied every GMO thoroughly. Said no scientist ever. Would you buy a 2013 model of a car if the company said they haven't done any testing for the last 20 years? And if you ask them why, they tell you, don't worry, the fundamentals of cars haven't changed a whole lot. Would that work? No, but that's exactly the scenario regarding GMOs. Monsanto did some studies more than 20 years ago for 90 days on rats for one type of GMO, and then they selectively shared that with FDA, which was run by their own vice president who approved it. And now we are being force-fed a whole bunch of different kind of GMOs, lab-made plants and crops, and we're supposed to accept it. So, in the world of real science, people will be studying short and long-term effects of GMOs on animals and humans. And there won't be any legal restrictions on who can study GMOs. Say, for example, you are a scientist. You have to apply to the biotech firms to get their permissions to study the GMOs. And you have to tell them exactly what kind of studies you're going to do and how you'll be conducting the study. And they have the prerogative to say yes or no. And if they say yes, you start the study. within the narrow boundaries that they specify. And in the middle of a test, if it looks like the results are not going to be favorable for them, they can say, stop, you don't have the permission anymore. And you might have spent 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, and you have to stop the study and you cannot publish any results. That's not how science works. Reason number two is about not labeling GMOs. Not labeling the GMOs is hiding a fact or truth, and that goes against the principles of science. We label everything else: salt, sugar, cholesterol, fat, and whether it's polysaturated, monounsaturated, saturated. We label vitamins, minerals, flavors, additives, whether it's natural, artificial, and so on and so forth. So why not GMOs? Reason number three is Monsanto's political and bureaucratic influence. After all, their employees run the FDA, the EPA, the USDA, and they create the loopholes, they create the laws, they create the exceptions that make GMOs possible and that give GMOs all the opaqueness. Here's a picture that shows Michael Taylor, the epitome of the corruption caused by revolving door. If you had seen the movie Good Will Hunting, there is a scene where Matt Damon says, "You're suspect." And that's what the anti-GMO people are telling Monsanto and its biotech buddies. You're suspect. And this is a very famous and a partial Venn diagram that shows how the tentacles of Monsanto spreads to every branch of the United States government. Senators, congressmen, White House, staff, all of the executive branches, especially the ones that deal with agriculture, trade, and so on. And they have huge influence. And when you have such a huge influence, you can really bend the truth. You can create your own scientific quote unquote facts. Reason number four is that GMOs are based on a mechanistic view of nature. What I mean by that is that they view the plants and nature like machines with discrete individual components that do very specific functions. But nature is not like a man-made object, like a car or a phone, which have very discrete components, like brakes of a car. If you want to slow down the car, you push on the brakes. But nature is holistic, where the components are interconnected, interrelated, and one component can affect multiple components. Thus, the assumptions behind gene manipulation and insertion are way too simplistic. So, for example, Monsanto found that there is a gene in a bacteria that makes it resistant to Roundup. So they figured, hey, if I take that gene and I put it in a plant, that plant will become Roundup resistant. There are two faulty assumptions in this. One is that just one gene alone does not give resistance to Roundup. And number two, when you take the gene and put it in a plant, it does not just do that one function. It's going to affect multiple other genes in the plant. Now, this mechanistic view has actually been a failure. Scientists have done a great job in finding solutions to mechanistic problems like surgery, organ transplant, and so on. But on the other hand, they have failed pretty miserably in curing most of the illnesses, if you think about it. For example, there's no cure for cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer, hypertension, arthritis, and so on. And also for psychological illnesses, there are no cures. They can work on the symptoms, but there are no real cures for the diseases themselves. You might also have noticed that medicines have enormous side effects, and that's because of this very simplistic, mechanistic view that the medical field has applied towards finding solutions to problems. Reason number 5. GMOs are essentially man-made, factory-made, artificial plants. How many recalls do we see every year with various products, whether it's a car, cell phone, or some meat product? Can you imagine something going wrong with a fundamental staple product like rice or wheat or even corn or soy? After all, 75 to 80% of the products in a typical supermarket contain GMOs. Can you imagine a recall of that magnitude? GMOs are also very unnecessary and inefficient middlemen. Basically, what they're saying is nature hasn't perfected after hundreds of millions of years of evolution. So here we have a solution of a technology that is totally untested, and we are going to provide the solution. Reason number 6 is the really horrible history of Monsanto and their brothers. History matters. You wouldn't go to a doctor if you learned that many patients have died when they went to that doctor and he actually lied about it. Monsanto has a history of PCBs, DDT, dioxin, Agent Orange, and they all were very poisonous, very toxic, very dangerous, but Monsanto knew about it and lied to the government and the people. And they continue to lie, manipulate, and hide behind legalistic and political maneuvers. Reason number 7 why GMOs are suspects is the approval process. For most people, if something is out in the market and it has the approval of the FDA, then people think that it must be safe. But think about all the drugs that get recalled every year. These are the same drugs that were approved by the FDA in the past. For example, fen was recalled after 24 years. Millions of people had taken it for weight loss. DES caused tumors, but it took 37 years to recall that dangerous drug. Baycol, made by Bayer, was recalled after more than 100,000 Americans had died. Vioxx was so popular you could not watch television for a few hours without seeing a commercial for Vioxx. And thanks to Merck, 20 million people had taken it. And after more than 200,000 people had serious heart problems, Vioxx was recalled. So the bottom line is that the FDA approval process is so weak. And especially when it comes to Monsanto, considering the fact that the FDA is actually run by a former vice president of Monsanto, GMOs are huge suspects. Reason number 8 is the narrow definition of science. So according to Big Pharma and biotech, science means you have to have multi-million dollar instruments and labs. So if somebody says, hey, I have found this amazing crop rotation techniques, the so-called SRI methods, to vastly improve the yield of rice and wheat and potatoes, sustainable and organic farming methods are giving great results, that's not convincing for big pharma and for biotech. So a lot of similar thinking also exists in medicine. Unless it comes in a form of a pill, unless you have to go to a doctor and spend a lot of money, there's no real cure. So if you say, hey, there are plants and herbs and spices and natural things that can cure diseases and ailments, for a lot of people, that's not convincing because somehow that's not science. Reason number 9 is that GMOs are uncontrollable and irrevocable. It's not like you have a phone from Nokia and the public uses it for a few years and then they find Apple and then they get rid of Nokia and they switch to Apple. Okay? GMOs mean that you're going to lose some plants that you can never get back. So for example, GMO wheat was found in Oregon 10 years after Monsanto had some test fields nearby. And nobody knows how they could have survived for 10 years spreading through wind, water, birds, and bees. But that's how nature works. GMO technology is not similar to the rest of the technologies in the world, like your phone or your laptop or your software. And it's a scientific fact that nature cannot be controlled. Now, a lot of people don't understand the importance of biodiversity. And it's science. It's a scientific fact that for the ecosystem and for mankind and for all the other living beings, biodiversity is a must. And I will do another separate video on the importance of biodiversity. Reason number 10. The only reason that GMOs are so prevalent and so popular is because of the use of unscientific methods. Number 1 is political and bureaucratic influence. Without Monsanto's ex-employees at the FDA, the USDA, and the EPA, there would not be any aspartame or GMOs or RBGH. A lot of them were actually rejected before, and only when Monsanto brought in their own people, they got approved. Number 2 is the use of PR and propaganda machines. That's the way our society works now. Monsanto goes to a PR firm, gives them a whole bunch of money, and they say, get this done. And then it's up to the PR people to buy politicians, to buy votes, to change the opinion of the public through the corporate media. And they don't care about the science, the health, the medicine. They don't know anything about genetics. Their job is, okay, I need to pass this law, and they get it done. Number 3 is legal manipulations. So, for example, the biggest point man who got a lot of things done for Monsanto is Michael Taylor. He doesn't have a PhD in genetics. He doesn't have a degree in science. He's a lawyer. They sent him to the FDA. They got him a nice job, and he created legal loopholes like substantial equivalence and all these other loopholes that made GMOs possible. So GMOs are prevalent, GMOs are everywhere, not because of science, but because of what is considered the opposite of science. All right, thank you everyone. Have a wonderful and a non-GMO day.